So should there be a means test in terms of your income and whether or not you should receive Social Security?
Absolutely. Absolutely there should be. You've got a lot of people in this country who don't need Social Security, who don't need Medicare. And I think we need to look realistically at where we ought to be drawing those lines. Means testing absolutely should be on the table. We've got to look at these programs. This is 2/3 of our nation's budget. We need to look at these programs and say we can't afford to keep doing things the old-fashioned way. It's going to bankrupt this country. You look at the current numbers, and then you try to extrapolate it to 2020, for example. I tried to sit down and explain this to my kids the other day. Their generation. And, following Medicare and Social Security and interest payments on the debt in 2020, there's nothing left. So what do you do about national security? What do you do about defense? What do you do about disaster relief? We're on a trajectory that is so dangerous economically for this country, and it's got to stop. But we're just going to have to put entitlements on the table, look at them differently than we have in the past. Same with the Defense Department.
But as you know, if you are the Republican nominee, you'll face a Democratic firestorm on the issue of Social Security and any entitlement cuts.
I understand that. But listen, we've got to talk truth. We've got to recognize the facts for what they are, and we have to proceed by doing business differently than we have in the past. We have no choice. I think the people of this country understand that. I think they understand the implications of where we are going and the disservice we're doing to the next generation of Americans, where for the first time in the history of the greatest nation that ever was, we're not passing our standards upward, we're passing downward. And that's the first time we've ever done that in terms of the country we're leaving to the next generation. It is less productive, it is less competitive, it is saddled with debt like never before, and we should do better than that for the next generation. They deserve better. And we're going to have to take some pretty bold measures and speak the truth to the American people about where we are and what needs to be done. It isn't a pleasant message, I understand that, but we're not in a good place right now as a country.
You are Jon Huntsman, Jr. Who's Jon Huntsman, Sr.? What's your relationship like with your dad, and what did he teach you about business?
He's a great man. He's not only my dad, but he's my best friend. And he's a great American entrepreneur, great family business success story that we were all part of building in life. As with any family business, you start small and you build it up if you're lucky enough. Some years it hits the wall economically. You face some pretty dire times, and other years you do reasonably well. But he's a man who has taught me first and foremost, before we ever had a family business, service to your community. Doesn't matter what your background is, what your economic means are, you serve your community, you leave it a better place. That was always something that he instilled in me at a very, very young age. Number two, the importance of hard work, which I started doing at a very, very young age, either as a dishwasher, having a lawn company, selling records door to door. In fact, I worked with my wife in a restaurant when I was 16 years old. I was a dishwasher and she was a salad girl, still trying to get a date with her, which I failed miserably at. But interestingly enough, life took us and placed us in the same restaurant at the same time. Which was an outgrowth of the work ethic that was instilled in me by my father, and may have also had a side benefit by kind of starting a little romance at the time as well.
It was a Marie Callender restaurant?
Marie Callender's restaurant, yeah. Pretty unglamorous place, but it was work.
Growing up in a family with 7 brothers and sisters?
I'm the oldest of 9.
What are the dynamics in a family like that?
You know, when you can grow up in a family of 9 kids, and you can have a family business, and you come out of it where each is respectful of the other, where you cheer each other on, it's probably a pretty rare set of circumstances. You know, in family businesses these days, there are fights, there are skirmishes, there are lawsuits, there's division and animosity. And I've got to say, in our family, I think thanks to my good parents, probably also thanks to the fact that we didn't start with a family business. It kind of grew over time. So our philosophy has always been, we didn't start with anything, so we're going to end life with nothing. You leave it back, you figure out some way to benefit your communities. But I'd have to say the family dynamic is a very good and a very healthy one, with love and respect one for another.
In fact, your dad had been quoted as saying that he wants to die broke.
Yeah, I think he'll succeed. I think he'll succeed. And I think for the rest of us, for whatever we might have, whatever we might develop during our lifetime, that philosophy holds true. You enter life with nothing, you leave with nothing. You leave it behind, directed at causes that will help the human condition, help your communities. We had the great privilege of starting a cancer institute that I was president and CEO of. My father was chairman of the board. Back in the 90s it started, and for years and years and years we started small and built over time what is today a terrific cancer center. It does basic research and it does clinical work as well. And I have to say, you can take politics out of the equation, you can take business out of the equation. This is what is important to people in life. I mean, finding a cure for cancer, giving hope to those who are absolutely hopeless when they've been diagnosed with this dreadful disease. That's what's important in life, and that's what I take through my journey in life. Some things are ephemeral, some things are less important than others. That's truly important.
And yet, as you well know, cancer remains a leading cause of death in this country. Are we doing enough to research the causes and the treatment of cancer?
You'd like to see the National Cancer Institute receive more in the way of funding. You would like to see, aside from funding, more collaboration and coordination among our research centers. We've got some great universities in this country, the finest in the world, who are making some very, very good breakthroughs, particularly now that we're at the end of the Human Genome Project. I think that has unlocked a lot of the mysteries of disease. The root cause of disease, who might be susceptible to certain types of diseases, the heritability of certain diseases like cancer. We know a lot more about it today. And so not only do I see cures around the corner, but I certainly see in the meantime being able to improve quality of life. So what would have been a death sentence for somebody 20 years ago means that you can live a longer life today with a better quality of life. And the one thing that I would hope for would be greater collaboration among our research centers. You've got universities with very smart people. They tend to hoard their research and their ideas because you win funding and you win prizes based upon what you discover. And people are less likely to break down those barriers institution to institution to share some of the basic research that has been done. So if we were to pool the basic research that goes on in this country, which is a very powerful engine, and let's just say begin greater collaboration with other countries, for example, in China. They've got some very smart scientists in China. They've got increasingly very good research and development capabilities. If we were to kind of blow the lid off of the walls that now divide science and basic research and pool more of the discoveries, we would get to that endpoint where cures are found, not only for cancer, but for example, my daughter has juvenile diabetes. She's my hero in life because she's carried this disease with great dignity and without any kind of self-pity. And she has to shoot herself up with insulin every single day and test her blood multiple times a day. And I'd love nothing more than for there to be a cure found for juvenile diabetes. I know it's around the corner. You know that we've got the brain power in this country and beyond to make it happen. You just wish from time to time they could drop those parochial barriers that stand in the way of greater scientific collaboration.
Let's go back to your now wife, Mary Kay. When did she finally say yes to a date, and when did you get married?
She said yes to a date my junior year in high school, and it was a one-off deal because she had a boyfriend. I don't want to get into this kind of romantic detail. I'm not sure it's important at all, but I was successful once my junior year in landing a date, and beyond that it was a hard-fought battle all the way to when I think I was 21 or 22 years of age, and we ultimately married in 1983, in November of 1983, and we've been married ever since. 7 kids to show for it, 2 of whom were adopted.